Our reading this morning comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 through 35. We continue our narrative of Jesus' coming after the resurrection. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and then crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things," the angel's words, "came from the tomb." Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who had said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interrupted them. He interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, and while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." And then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. Amen. I lost my place, which is, I guess, a sign of my own lack of vision. I am switching to bifocals. I had an eye appointment last week, and they said, "You're old now and it's time." So, I'll be the only one here with bifocals. Ooey gooey was a worm. A mighty worm was he. He climbed upon the railroad track, the train he did not see. Ooey gooey. Ooey gooey. This mighty worm run over by a train. The train we do not see. And just like that, here it is. A tremendous energy, perhaps trampling us, maybe doing something else. We'll explore that. On this road to Emmaus, there is buzz. There are a couple of disciples, a few disciples riding along, and they're gossiping because something strange has happened in Jerusalem. The tomb of Jesus is empty, and there is a report that angels were there and said that Christ is risen. It's a gossipy buzz. that surrounds the resurrection. People are going on Facebook. There's a lot of speculation. Conspiracy theories are forming. No one knows what to think. It's all fake news. It's all real news. It's not good news yet. It's that balance that we usually deal with. And one of the things that I wanted to tell you that I've been thinking about is that the first part of what we read today feels kind of shallow. This buzz, the people talking to Jesus who they recognize only as a stranger, they're like, how on earth have you been a stranger in Jerusalem these few days and you haven't heard this crazy story? Well, let us fill you in. And they lean in and they tell him all the weird things that have been going on. And then Jesus, he offers a correction. He says, do you not believe the prophets who gather these signs around the coming of the Messiah? And then as they're walking along, it turns into Sunday school, apparently a pretty deep one, because he walks through many of the lessons in the Bible. I think that we can sometimes, I know I can, have a pretty shallow response to a miracle. We can forget what the miracle means because it's all initially spectacle. This wasn't supposed to happen. This is weird. This is thrilling. I'm going to try to take a picture of it and post it on Instagram with all of my other photos of flowers and food and memes and whatever else. In the same way, I think that we can have a shallow response to war. We can have a shallow response to human suffering. We can have a shallow response to miraculous cures. Our internet browsing, our feeds, they make this particularly easy because the way that the news is sold is it is packaged as miracles and offered to us as revolutionary, history-changing moments. And we scroll through it at the beginning of the day and the ending of the day, and we're like, heck, we live in a world of wonders, and now I'm going to go eat my cereal because I've been taught to click and click and click, take these wonders for granted, and move on. Until maybe I find a person on the road to catch up on the news, to say, I have a wonder that maybe you don't have. Our pockets are full of wonders, and they rattle around like change, these miracles. What is Jesus telling us to do? I imagine him stopping on the road, and that moment where he's saying, wait a second, he turns to them, and they pause for a second, and he says that word, Messiah, and they who are up here in their flutter and buzz, they pause a little bit, and the energy comes down, but a different kind of intensity goes up. And they start listening. And as they walk along, there is a dawning, a reflection, a process of reflection. They don't notice Jesus yet. They don't see Jesus yet. But they begin to brush away, like architects, the dust until the true thing that has been buried is revealed. And how is it revealed in this story? There is no literal bread on the table, but we rehearse it every month. Jesus breaks bread, and when the bread is broken, Christ disappears. A crucial thing is done that reveals Jesus among them, because when the bread is broken, his face is known. Then it vanishes. And then they are left. They are left with yet another wonder, one which they have collected not secondhand, but themselves there. And they run to the other disciples, and they deliver it secondhand, this first-hand thing. And we're left with that puzzle of witness. how do we know? Even if we see it with our own eyes, but how do we know if it's secondhand, if it ever actually happened? One answer that I'll offer to you, I was discussing it with my covenant group this week, is that wonders, they're so thrilling that sometimes they make us forget the ethical. We see a wonder, it's amazing on its own account, but we don't fathom the meaning. And it's more than fathoming the meaning, because we can know the right thing to do, we know this, but are we going to do the meaning? Are we going to take the significance of the bread, apply it to the words of the prophets, and then be galvanized in mission to do the work of Jesus, to follow the mission of Jesus, to walk in the steps of Jesus, whether that means coming to the church and distributing food, or opening space to all of the recovery groups, or the many, many things that you'll hear about during the announcements that you all do to walk in the steps of Jesus, to imitate Christ. Christ revealed himself in the breaking of the bread. This breaking of the bread is a death. The body is broken. It is pulled in half. It is run over by a train and dissected. And then we bring it back together and we show a wholeness, a resurrected wholeness, and we take it in. And then, as the bread is distributed, as we eat it, it goes in different places in the world, and then it comes back together in acts of kindness, in acts of worship, in our own acts of resurrection, where the body is restored. Ooey-gooey was a worm. A mighty worm was he. He climbed upon the railroad track, the train he did not see, and he was cut in half. The train slowed down and stopped for him. Ooey did not pay a fee, but boarded the train, a mighty train, where all the worm voices and chorus sang, "Now you are free, my friend Ooey-gooey, and we'll ride up together to the great hallelujah, where all God's creatures are loved and free." May it be so in the name of the one who was and who is to come. Amen.